our seventh and final topic is Europe faces a tense year ahead. France will have an election within the first 6 months, or maybe the first 7 months. We don't, the 2024 budget has rolled on to 2025. They are not having a shutdown, unlike the US, but they will find it extremely difficult to come up with a stable government. Three parties, two of them agree economically, two of them agree somewhat socially, or three blocks. The traditional political parties have collapsed. Peter Isaacson, our chief strategy officer, and I wrote a big piece on this. And those of you who want to read it are welcome to. But the reality is the Fifth Republic itself is now meandering, or rather in crisis. It may not survive this, because if you cannot have a government, if you have such political division and the structures do not allow for given the way the Fifth Republic is structured, do not allow for, and I'll share this. I will share my screen yet again and show you the piece here. This is the piece which you can take a look at. And our point is, we wrote this after Michel Barnier's minority government collapsed, and the French Fifth Republic, which Charles de Gaulle began in 1958, is neither fish nor fowl, and it's reaching a point where Marine Le Pen is always reaching the last round now, and we don't know whether she'll win, but she could. At some point, people could vote for RN. Even if they don't, there is chronic instability. Germany, the government collapsed, as we discussed, over the issue of Ukraine, partly the very next day after Trump got elected, because Germans would not vote through a budget that would enforce cuts in social services. And of course, now AfD is number 2 in the polls. We will have a strange outcome after the election. Alexander Gloy, our editor at large, is German, is an economist. He has analyzed the German economy and the German situation. So the two beating powerhouses of Europe, France and Germany, are in crisis. The Dutch have their own crisis. Geert Wilders managed to lead his party to become the biggest party in the Dutch parliament. So all across Europe, when we cast our eye, we can see there are tensions, A, within Europe, within countries, and B, between countries. Immigration is playing a major role as far away as the UK, even after Brexit. Reformed UK is becoming more popular. In fact, there is talk of Nigel Farage now somehow emerging as a far more powerful political leader than he is. He was the biggest draw in the Conservative Party conference a while ago. And so we are seeing a very interesting time in Europe, wherein economic pain, social divisions, and political paralysis promises 2025 to be a pretty rocky year ahead. And this is not to mention what Donald Trump is going to do, because Donald Trump likes exerting pressure. He'll exert more pressure on a divided Europe. When it comes to protectionism, he is going to bully them to cough up more cash for NATO. So Europeans can expect a roller coaster ride in 2025.
I think the structural driver seems, I would, I've argued it before, it's demographic fundamentally, and social, meaning the effect of increasing diversity of populations in European nations. There's certainly political turmoil as a result in Germany, UK, France, Holland, Italy, and so Spain too.
Italy has Giorgia Meloni, who's running a fair, what seems to the eye, a fairly successful government, and is quite popular. And she's also a far right leader. And her deputy prime minister, I was told by a certain ambassador in confidence, has a bust of Mussolini as you walk into his home.
Oh, her party has always lionized Mussolini. Um,
Benito Mussolini. Uh-huh.
It's fashionable to deride the French Fifth Republic as unstable and having lived its, reached the end of its days. That could be, but the French are more rational than the Americans, and so even in the crisis, they have taken institutionalized steps in a budget paralysis that will allow the government to continue functioning day to day, at least, which is infinitely superior to the American situation of literally closing the entire federal government. So there will be changes. Whether the far rights will cross the threshold anywhere is not certain. Uh, I perhaps feel less apocalyptic about the turmoil than Toole's concerns, but I'm not blind to the instability, certainly. And I make no prediction for 2025 in that regard.
Right. On that note, thank you very much for your time. We will take a couple of questions, quick questions, and from Anton Schobel, my chief of staff. And he said, getting off this planet is the only means for the long-term survival of humanity, but AI can be a threat even to a multi-planetary humanity and is therefore an even bigger threat than nuclear weapons. Glenn, what do you think?
Well, I have my competence extends as far as computers and AI and so on extends to manipulating Microsoft Word. So I'm not, and I'm okay on that. I'm not an authority, but I have read closely for the last 18 months or so when this all burst upon the average person's consciousness. What the current researchers, leading authorities, and government officials responsible for trying to figure out how to respond to this have to say. And I have been stunned, as I suppose anyone who's read this has been, that there is such a strong agreement that the existential risks are real, and no one knows. But they range estimates by these experts: Jeffrey Hinton, who's one of the leaders, and Kai-Fu Lee, who's one of the leaders of AI development, and others. Sam, gosh, this is my mind.
Altman, Altman,
Altman.
Sam Altman. Yeah.
Uh, they all say essentially the same thing, which is that there's from 10 to percent above chance truly of civilization threatening evolutions within a very short period of time, like 5 to 10 years. Uh, Others, of course, there will be incalculable and already many clearly foreseen phenomenal improvements in life and knowledge, understanding, and processes as a result of this. We already are starting to see breakthroughs from AI in research in immunology and pharmaceutical developments and in how to regulate supply chains, and that's just the very, very beginning. So it seems sensible to me what Sam Altman urged before the U.S. Congress, which is that governments seek to impose some sort of regulations, just as one has done with nuclear research and biological research, so that bad actors or unforeseeable events don't happen without some effort to regulate and control them. Beyond that, it's exciting and unstoppable.
All right. So, final word from Anton Schobel as well, and back to Europe. And his point is perhaps Europe will see more Giorgia Meloni's than Viktor Orban's. Giorgia Meloni is the prime minister of Italy. Viktor Orban is the prime minister of Hungary. president, minister, I suppose, and he says that Europe will come out of this far right tide not significantly changed. I very much doubt so. We'll see. We wish you all a very happy new year and all the best for 2025. See you next year and next month.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.